right? Sabbe kasanti dandassa sabbe bhayanti majjuno attanam upamam kattva nahaneya naghatvaye sabbe kasanti dandassa sabbe danti majjuno attanam upamam kattva nahaneya naghatvaye. All tremble at the road, all fear death. Comparing others with oneself, one should neither strive nor cause to strive. Why the Buddha had to recite this? It's a very interesting story. A group of young monks, 6 of them, were repairing an old house to convert into a monastery. Meanwhile, 16 of elderly monks also came to this place and threatened and frightened and beat these monks and chased them away because they wanted to occupy this building. These young monks, just like small children, went to the Buddha and reported. Those elderly monks beating them. Then the Buddha has announced, in future, a monk should not beat another monk. That is a Vinaya rule, disciplinary code. Right? They accepted that. Then the young monk again came back and started to renovate the building. Elderly monks also came back. This time, they did not beat them because the Buddha advised them not to beat. What they did, they came and threatened this monk. They are very good, very obedient disciples because they never violate what the Buddha asked them not to do, but they do something else. Again, these young monks see the Buddha and reported to them. Those elderly monks came and threatened them and threatened by using gesture. Again, the Buddha has to advise them in future that the monk should not threaten or frighten another monk by using any gesture or hand. This is second Vinaya. Because of this incident, the Buddha had to recite this. Can you imagine? This is 2,500 years ago. Those who had associated with the Buddha, if they behaved like this, what about today? This is the nature of human mind. Whether they are monks or laymen, the normal mind is like that. Unless they attain sainthood or arahanthood, this kind of human weaknesses remains in us. Therefore, we should not get fed up, or we should not create disturbances having seen this kind of incident. This is the human nature. So it takes time for them to train themselves to reduce their craving, attachments, egoism, pride, anger, jealousy, grudge, all the evil thoughts, not so easy to reduce. So these sayings of the Buddha is very practical, very meaningful, not like other religious teachers. Many other religious teachers introduce their religious law or religious commandment or religious principles saying this is the law given by the God. If not, this is a religious law. If not, there will be religious punishment. In Buddhism, we cannot find all these things. Everything according to our own experience, not by depending on any law given to us by another person. This is not the law of God, not the law of a Buddha or any other supernatural living beings, our own experience. I always repeat this for you to understand the nature of the Buddha's teaching. He always says, I advise you to do certain things and not to do certain things according to my own experience. Not as a theory, not as a religious law, not as a message given to me by a God, my own experience. Then which is more reliable? Experience or the message given to them by somebody else? He says, I had to suffer during many previous births due to certain bad deeds that I have committed. I have that experience. That is why I am telling you not to do certain things, because you also have to suffer. Then he says, I advise you to do good, do some service to others, try to be good, because during my previous birth, life after life, I went on doing good, cultivating, doing some service to others, and doing lot of meritorious deeds. I can understand what sort of peaceful, happy, contented, prosperous, fortunate life I had because of all the good deeds that I have done. So when you practice all these good deeds, you also can experience the same good result. This is the nature of the Buddha's teaching. Without depending on anybody, by realizing that it is true, that it is good, or it is bad, or it is cruel, it is harmful, it is dangerous, through our own understanding. Now here, he says, Sabbe tasanti dandasya. Danda means a stick or the rod. Sabbe, every living being, tremble, frightened at a stick or any weapons that we use to beat them, to kill them, to attack them. Every living being. Anyone can understand that it is true. Sabbe bhayanti macchunu. Macchum is death. Every living being is scared of death. Nobody likes to die purposely. Scared, run away, try to escape, a struggle. Even tiniest creatures try to escape or attack. Big battle to save the life. This is the nature of life. Whether the life is big or small, it is a life. So, by knowing this, Attanam upamam katva, by comparing with yourself, you also experience the same fear and you also scared of death. So if you beat another person, you can understand that person, that living beings also experience the same pain that you experience. If you try to kill another living being, then you can understand that living being also experience the same pain and fear and worry and tension, suffering that you experience. This is more than enough for you to understand why attacking others, destroying others, killing others, disturbing others are bad. So not necessary to study any philosophy or any religion to get any message from heaven for you to understand why it is bad. This is the nature of the Buddha. Very human. Even small children also can understand. Then, the reason is pain and fear and worry and suffering and fear of death are common disturbances which create a lot of worries and disturbances in our mind. Because we have attachment towards our body, towards our life, we claim this is our body, although it is not belong to us. The body is not belong to us, because body always goes against us. If it is belong to us, we must have authority, we must have power to control, which we don't like, but we have no authority. So it clearly shows it is not belong to us. Again in the Buddha's saying, it is mentioned, Naidam attakatan bimba, Naidam parakatan maga. This body or this life is not created by me. I did not create this body. I did not create this life. Naidam atta. Atta means myself. Naidam parakatan maga. This body or this life is not created by another person. This saying you can find only in the Buddha. Hetum paticca sambhutam. When all the necessary hetu means factors. When the necessary factors, elements, energies, cosmic energies, mental energies, all these are combined and balanced properly. Hetum paticca sambhutam. When all these things are combined, the life or the body come into existence. There is nobody to mold it, nobody to plan it, nobody to arrange it. All the necessary factors, energies are responsible for creating, producing this life or this body. Hetu bhanga. When those factors, energies, elements are dissolved, separate, disintegrate, nirujjati, disappear. We can understand this very clearly. Now all these are the bundles of elements and energies or mental energies. Remain for a certain period by changing. We cannot stop this. But we don't like these changes. Why we don't like? Because we have attachment, craving, we think this is ours, this is mine. Therefore we don't like it. Although whether we like or not, changes take place. Decaying takes place. After decaying, disintegrate. That is natural. Disintegration, separation is natural. After that, that person so and so is no more. Disappear. I disappear. No more I there. When the body is here, we say, I say I. I say, according to Buddhism, there is no I. Who says that? I say. I see the language. I say, there is no I. Here I mean conventional term, word that we use to talk. Otherwise there is no such person called I. That I disappear when the elements and energies disintegrate, separate. No more I. Then I say, I will be born. Who says, I say, I will be born. This is the concept. Because without using this word, we cannot talk. We cannot express idea. I say, I will be born. So that person who will be born is not I. Since I am using the word I am responsible for that life. And that is the connection. That is the link. I am responsible for that life. Therefore, that life is not entirely a different person. I have created necessary condition to reappear that life. This is the way how the Buddha has entered. So we don't like changes because we never think. Everything that which exists in this world are impermanent, changeable, never remain without change, either in this world or any other world system where there are living beings or things exist. Things come into existence, here just now I mentioned, due to combinations of these elements, energy. These elements and energies and factors were not created by anybody. They exist forever. Then, if not here in this particular planet, they exist in various other planets where there are living beings. Numerous, endless, infinite world cycle, world system, universes, not only one universe, universes. But our knowledge, our understanding is not deep enough, is very limited to extend, to understand where those living beings exist. modern scientific discoveries and astronomers strongly believe, definitely, they use word, definitely, there are some living beings in various other planets, already accepted. But still they could not prove where they really exist. In one galaxy, there may be thousands or millions of planets or stars. Amongst those millions, there will be at least few hundred or few thousand where there are certain living beings. In the Buddha's teaching, on many occasions, he has mentioned Dasa Sahasri Loka Dhatu, 10,000 world systems. Dasa Sahasri Loka Dhatu, 100,000 world systems where there are living beings. Through his enlightenment, because he is known as Loka Vidu, knower of the world system. Loka Vidu. Loka means world, Vidu means knower, who knows the nature of the world system. But we cannot understand. So wherever life exists, there is pain, there is fear, there is suffering. It is imperfect. We have to understand. Whether it is in this world system or any other world system, durations differ. We may exist only, say, maximum 100 years, but many others may exist few thousand years due to the environment of that particular planet. So, when we talk about Devaloka, Brahmaloka, it is mentioned in thousands their life extends. Not in hundreds, even in thousands. But here, today, we can understand less than 70, 80. That is human life. What about the other living beings? Mosquitoes. What is the maximum lifespan for a mosquito? 1 week or 2 weeks. Flies, insects, how long can they exist? They are living beings. They too have experience, pain, fear, worries, disturbances, scared of death. They also try to escape from death. So, to the Buddha, it makes no difference whether it is human life or animal life or any other forms of life. Sabbe tasanti dandasa, sabbe, every living being in any part of the universe, sabbe bhayanti machuno, every living being scared of death, fear of death. We are scared of death because of attachments and craving. But after attaining arahanthood, sainthood, this body, this physical body, become a real nuisance to them, real burdens to them. They carry this dead body just like a dustbin. They are waiting to get rid of this, to attain nirvanic bliss. Because to experience nibbanic bliss, the physical body interrupts. Pain, hate, various kinds of suffering, and external disturbances interrupt. So when they, what you call, do away with or get rid of this physical body, they experience complete bliss. By keeping this physical body, it is impossible for us to experience real bliss. We never experience, because this body creates enormous problems and troubles and disturbances. To us, this is very precious, very valuable. We are willing to spend millions of billions of dollars to save our body, not the life, to save a body. But body is going on decaying, decaying. Money cannot stop that. God cannot stop that. The Buddha cannot stop that. That is called universal nature. That is called impermanency. That is called Dhammata, the nature of the Dhamma. The world exists in this way. Appear, exist, decay, disappear. If you can understand this, Dhamma is there. If you can understand this, we can reduce too much of worry about our physical body and can experience the real burdens of our physical body. We have become slaves to physical body. Whole day and night we spend our life. We spend our life to look after this physical body, to attend to this physical body, to decorate, to beautify. But even then, the body is going on decaying. The life cannot stop this one. So when this one is collapsed and elements disintegrated, then life goes away. Again start another new house. That is called body. Build another one. The life is there. There is no beginning, there is no end. Now we have element. Can we point out the beginning of element? Where is the beginning of wind? Where is the beginning of heat? Is there anyone who can find out? No beginning. Now where is the end of wind? End of this heat? In the same manner. As long as these elements, these energies, cosmic energies remain, exist, they never disappear. But in certain planets, no wind, no heat, no atmosphere, certain planet. But here we have all. That is why life exists. Plant life exists because of the combinations of elements, the environment. All over the world today people are talking about environment because we are destroying environment. Not knowing what will happen to us if we are going on digging and cutting and burning this earth. What will happen? Every living being come into existence. Remember this. With the big cosmos, every living being in this world come into existence to contribute something to maintain the environment. We cannot understand. Otherwise they never exist. To us, they are nuisance. Therefore we destroy them. But we do not know what they contribute. But we never think that we are real nuisance to all the other living beings, human beings. Real nuisance. Other living beings are not that bad. Human beings are the real troublemakers, real nuisance to all the other living beings. Every plant that appears on this earth, you can find in that plant either food value or medicinal value. Otherwise they never appear. But we have discovered only little things. But still they are discovering new plants to create medicine, to prepare food. Those days, 2,000 years ago, we have discovered only little bit. Otherwise, that plant never appeared on this earth. That is how the environment maintained. So, human mind developed too much. Developed too much ambition, craving, anxieties, and then started to destroy the other living beings and other plants and the elements, pollute. We never think all the other living beings also experience pain. Some people say they cannot experience pain because they have no mind. If they have no mind, how can they take food? How can they see things? How can they hear sound if they have no mind? Eyes cannot see anything without mind. Ears cannot hear anything without mind. Called eye consciousness, ear consciousness, all the five senses working with consciousness, mind, related to the mind. Mind is using these five as channels to bring from outside certain things. So every living being experiences pain and pleasure, both. Every living being experiences sexual pleasure. If there is no mind, how can they experience it? Even pain also like that. By realizing this, the Buddha advised, it is very cruel, it is unfair, not justifiable to destroy them for our own benefit, or for our food, or for our protection, or for our fun. We destroy them. We enjoy killing them, fishing and shooting for nothing. We enjoy, but we do not know we had to pay the price for that, destroying such life. The other day I told you, the Buddha had a severe headache. Then he explained to his disciples, do you know why I am suffering from this headache? During one of my previous births, I have seen a man was fishing by using a hook. I went, I enjoy, I encourage, I really enjoy how these fish jump here and there. And because of that, for encouraging for that cruelty, by enjoying, having seen that innocent creatures are dying, struggling, this is the bad effect. That hidden bad karma affected me. We must never encourage. We must never enjoy when others destroy destroying, killing, slaughtering other living beings. This is the advice given by the Buddha. When you go further, how he explains? Now let us come to next one. In the next stanza, number 130, the Buddha says like this: Sabbe tasanti dandassa sabbe san jeevitam piyam attanan upamam kattva nahaneya naghataye. Only one line is changed. All tremble at the rod. Life is dear to all. That is extra line here. Life is dear to all. Comparing others with oneself, one should neither strive nor force to strive. Every living being experiences pain or fear when they were attacked or beat. Every living being, life is dear to them. Yes, we love our life. We love our life, we love our body. Both. There is another saying, Dhanam chajeyo pana anga hetu. People are willing to spend any amount of money to save their limbs, either hand or leg. Doctor says, if you can spend 1 million, I can save your leg without amputating. Willing to spend 1 million because they like it so much. Dhanam chaje. Give away the wealth. Anga hetu. Anga means limbs. After that, Angam chaje jeevitam rakhamano. Doctors say, your leg is gangrening very badly. If not amputated, we cannot save your life. Then he or she make up the mind to sacrifice the leg for the sake of the life. To protect the life, now he is willing to sacrifice the leg. First, he agreed to spend millions of dollars to save the leg. Later, he agreed to sacrifice the leg to save the life. Angam dhanam jeevitam chapi sabbam chaje naro dhamma manusaranto. But wise people are willing to sacrifice wealth, limbs, and the whole life for the sake of the Dhamma, for the sake of their principle. They are called great people. They are not scared of it. They are not attached to their limbs or body or life. They know this is not the only life. If I sacrifice my life to save others, to serve others, to release others' suffering, I can have a better life. Whether I get a better life or not, how nice. What sort of happiness I gain by sacrificing my life for the sake of others. And why do we worship and respect certain people who have done this? Why do people worship and respect Jesus Christ? He really sacrificed his life. because of his principle. He faced death. How many millions of human beings worship him today because of that? A great philosopher in Greece, Socrates, because of his principle, the government could not understand him, sentenced to death by giving poison. That was the penalty at that time. He took that with smiling face, sacrifice. What he introduced as philosophy all over the world, people appreciate today, respect him. Although people have not built up a religion by taking him as a savior to worship, but people respect him. Forever, human beings respect him because of that. He said. Another great man in India, Mahatma Gandhi, his main principle is non-violence, ahimsa. The Buddha introduced this, but he took only this principle, not to harm others. When Hindus and Muslims started slaughtering each other, I was in India at that time. I have seen how they slaughtered. Mahatma Gandhi, although he was a Hindu, he never supported Hindus. He advised both Hindus and Muslims not to kill each other, not to disturb others. But there was one fanatic, a Hindu, who could not tolerate this principle. His unbiased attitude, his non-violence, he could not tolerate. So Gandhi was shot dead because of him. And today, the whole world respects this whole man, Mahatma Gandhi. When he was shot, Bernard Shaw, he was a joker. Bernard Shaw said, it shows how dangerous it is to be too good. Mahatma Gandhi tried to be too good. Because of that, he has to face this untimely death. That is his definition. Anyway, I also always advise our members and devotees not to try to be too religious. Don't try to be too religious. Become real nuisance to others, especially to your family members. Take for instance, suddenly you change your mind. You want to become a vegetarian, you don't want to eat onion or garlic, nothing. Then you're real nuisance to your mother, your family members and your children because you don't eat all these things. So don't try to be too religious. If you want to be too religious, you must separate from the society. Renunciation is important for that. So after that renunciation, you can do anything whatever you like. There's nobody to pass remarks. If you think by walking, using the leg is no use, must work walking by hand, the leg upward you can do like that, as your religious principle. No harm at all. But don't try to do this at home. So, the Buddha started his mission by giving this advice. Don't go to extreme to be religious or to practice religion. Don't go to extreme. Not necessary for you to suffer, torture your body because of your religion. You can lead a normal life. try to uphold certain noble principles, maintain gentleness, that is more than you, then you are religious. On the other hand, he also advised, don't try to enjoy too much. You become slaves to your enjoyment, your senses. Then you forget the important aspect of your life, because you become slaves to your enjoyment. Later, you regret the later part of your life. There's nothing for you to carry forward for the next world, next existence, through your indulgence or emotional satisfaction. You had to drop everything here, but you had to prepare something for your journey, because this is not the last station. You have to continue this journey, and for that journey you must have pocket expenses. The merits are the pocket expenses. If you travel without pocket expenses, you get into trouble. Now you can see all over the world how many millions of human beings are suffering. No food, no clothing, no shelter, nothing. They have no pocket expenses. That means they have not prepared. This is a living example for all of us. While enjoying, we have to think. Yes, we can enjoy our life while millions of others are suffering and stunned. Why? We have done some good deeds during our previous birth. Patirupa desa vasocha pubbecha katapunyata. Can you tell me where it is, in which sutra? Every day you go and recite. Can you tell me where it is, in which sutra? What is that? I cannot hear. Mangala, right? Mangala Sutra. Very meaningful saying. Patirupa desa vaso. Whenever we had the opportunity to be born, in certain countries, certain areas, certain locality where there are no disturbances, no earthquake, no volcanic eruptions, no flood, no storm like Bangladesh. How many thousands died every 2-3 months in Bangladesh? And no war, no violence, no riot. How fortunate we are here in this country. We don't appreciate it. Look at millions of others, how they suffer in African countries as refugees. Animals never suffer like that. That is what the Buddha says. Patirupa desa vasocha. Rebirth, existence take place in certain countries where there are no such disturbances, when we have certain good manners. That is very important. Pubbecha kata punya. Pubba means previous birth. Kata punya means done meritorious deeds. So if we have done meritorious deeds during our previous birth, we get our requisite, our needs, without struggling for them. Very easily we gain our food, our clothing, our houses and our necessities. Not necessary to work like slaves, not necessary to struggle for that. Very easily we can gain. Here we can understand. Some people are working day and night like slaves, but still they won't get enough income to maintain their family. Some others just sit down in the air-conditioned rooms and smoking and enjoying and attend to telephone, millions of dollars income every month. I see the difference. And others under hot sun, how those people work the roadside. PWD, JKR, under hot, we cannot sit inside our room, we must have fan or air condition. And those people are working under hot sun and working, digging, cutting, carrying stones for their living, for their survival. Still they won't get enough income to support their family. Ubbecha kata punyata. Here the Buddha said, what is punya? Merit. Do some service to others. Release others' suffering. Support others when they are in trouble. This is called merit. Not only by offering and worshipping and praying to the Buddha, these are the merits. So, here in this saying, Sabbesam Jeevitam Piya, since every living being loves his or her or its life, it is very unfair for us to hurt or destroy or disturb or kill. No justification. We can give our own excuses. Many people say they want to kill crocodiles. Some others say they want to kill mosquitoes. Some people say they want to kill lizard or ants and rats. They also struggle for their survival, for their living, to find out some food, go here and there. And we feel it is a nuisance to us. So we kill it. This is our justification. But our justification never forgive the universal law. You must understand that. Universal law is unbiased. If anybody violates the existing universal law under any circumstances, that universal law never forgives. That is karma. Karma is universal. You can say, I kill because they are nuisance. I kill, I want to enjoy. I kill for fun. I kill, they are real nuisance. Yes, all these are your own excuses. But the universal law never forgive you for that. Under any circumstance. You had to pay for that. Yes. That is not the punishment given by another person. That is the reaction or the effect of your action. Action creates the effect. You cannot stop this. Your justification are not valuable. For your own satisfaction you can say it. Then Attanam upamam katta. Always the Buddha says this. Compare with your life. How you feel. When others come and disturb you, attack you, beat you, try to kill you, how do you feel? And then all the other living beings also experience. You see. So when you consider in this way, then you develop your compassion, your sympathy, your understanding, your harmony with other living beings. We have to harmonize with other living beings. We are not entitled to destroy them. Every living being has right to exist. We human beings should not think we are the only living beings who got right to exist. We can kill others and destroy others. No justification. Even the plant life, we are not entitled to destroy the plant life. Plant life is very highly respected by the Buddha. He encouraged the environment. Only religious teacher who really set an example. He was born under the tree. He spent 6 years in the jungle in meditation. He gained enlightenment under a tree. 45 years he spent mostly in various jungles and gardens and mango garden, bamboo garden and this garden, that garden. Many of these discourses, when you read, where he delivered sermon, mango garden, in bamboo garden, but not in lake garden. And in the end, he died under a tree. See how we respect the plant life, environment. Modern scientists have discovered we can talk to plant life. We can change the plant life by talking. We can transmit our mental energy to the plant life. That is what you do. You go to a Bodhi tree and talk to that tree. And you don't know actually what you are doing. You go and talk to that tree. Scientists have done some experiment in this way. Certain plants, they have given fertilizers and watering equally. After that, divided into two. Same fertilizer and water every day. But every day, they go and talk to these two groups. One group, by touching the plant or the leaves, I love you, I like you, I want you to grow as possible, I like to see the flowers, I like to see the fruits, this group. And the other group, you go and touch, I don't like you, I hate you, I don't like to see that you are growing, you are real nuisance, this group. After doing this for some time, they have seen the reaction. Entirely different reaction, this group and them. Mental energy. That plant life can absorb the mental energy. Mental energy can penetrate. This plant life is called Ekindriya Satta. Only one sense, feeling. Plant life has feeling, but no other senses. And certain plants, when you touch the leaves, close. Very sensitive, certain plants. In Africa, I heard, in the jungle, there is a huge plant. That plant got very big leaves, very big. If any animals or human beings when stand under this tree, the leaves slowly come down and down and down and down and suck and take the blood. Leaves. Everybody knows that. So they have sensitivity. Another belief is plant life occupied by certain earth-bound devas, a spirit. So people try to contact them most. And Lady Sujata, who had no children after her marriage for many years. So people advised her to go and make a vow under a banyan tree, not a bodhi tree. Because the bodhi tree and banyan trees are occupied by different Buddhas in different times. Now the Sakyamuni Buddha occupied bodhi tree. Next Buddha, Maitreya Buddha, occupied banyan tree, not the bodhi tree. So at that time, people don't worship bodhi tree, only banyan tree. I think you better start worshipping banyan tree earlier. Many previous Buddhas also gained enlightenment under either banyan tree or bodhi tree. There are some others also, but not under coconut trees. So, what happened? After making this vow, she had a baby, beautiful baby. Then she wanted to offer some milk rice. That is the thing always people offer. In India and Sri Lanka, that is a very famous food. The rice they cook with milk. It's called milk rice. So asked the servant to go and clean the tree. So when he went, he saw somebody sitting under the tree. A lady. This lady could not understand who this person is. She came and reported, I think your God smelled that you are cooking milk rice here. He has come down the tree and waiting under the tree, sitting there. And Lady Sujata also could not understand what it is. In hurry, she prepared everything. Yes, really, somebody is sitting under the tree. She doesn't know who this person is. She offered milk rice to this person. After practicing self-torture, self-mortification for 6 years, the Buddha, not yet attained Buddhahood, the Buddha decided to come back to the middle path, not to go to extreme, give up extreme. So he was sitting under the Bodhi tree, thinking what to eat. In the jungle there is nothing to eat. Meanwhile, this lady offered milk rice. After taking this, he crossed the river, Neranjara river, and the Bodhi tree was nearby, and sat under the Bodhi tree. Then started to meditate and gained enlightenment. So this also clearly shows we have to respect the plant lives. In certain countries, here also some people are doing it. They never cut huge trees without doing some sambayam, some ceremony, offering some jossticks and light and praying. Then only they cut the tree. Because they believe. Here people say dato. Datos are there. Whether dato or not, certain spirit or certain devas influenced by them, occupied by them. So when we destroy the tree and they were affected, they will be affected, then some disturbances come from them. I understand some people who have cut down Bodhi trees, and the same day or the next day some sort of accident, motor car accident, affected their hand or leg. That is through the influence of such either spirits or devas. So we cannot deny this. People say it is superstitious. No, we cannot say it is superstitious because thousands of years. Now Sujata's story 2500 years ago. And today, I know one lady here in Kerala, from a very rich family. She had no children for many years after marriage. Somebody advised her to come and make a vow here. At that time we had the huge Bodhi tree which was fallen down a few years ago. She says she made a vow, but we never knew. She has done privately. After 1 year, she came with the baby. Came and told us, I made a vow here. I got a baby. After that, she has become a very devout Buddhist. Earlier, she was not interested in any religion. These are the living examples. We cannot deny. We cannot explain how things take place. So, life is dear to every living being. Therefore, it is our duty. Try to avoid as much as possible not to destroy. That is the only service that we can render to harmonize with other living beings. Now, in my life, I can tell you very frankly, I am very happy. For the last 75 years, I don't think that I have killed even a mosquito purposely or ant never in my life. I'm scared to do that. I cannot do that. My mother told me, when I was a small baby, scrolling here, when I see an ant or cockroaches or any living being, I follow that creature without beating. I had never done that even when I was a small baby. That is intrinsic, the natural, or maybe sansaric habit. So many others, for fun, just kill. This is fun. They enjoy that killing. That is cruelty. As human beings, we must have kindness, compassion and sympathy and harmony with other living beings. And destroying them, killing them is not the only solution. You can say you cannot live without killing them. Then how can I live without killing them? When I say a mosquito is biting, I choose this. I never do like this. Never in my life. Life is life. For your own protection, own precaution, for your own fun, for your own convenience, you destroy others. The natural law, nature never forgives you for that. That is your selfishness. Then the next one, number 132. Sukhakamani bhutani yodandena vihinsati attano sukha mesano vejjaso nalapate sukham. Sukhakamani bhutani yodandena hinsati attano sukha mesano vejjaso labate sukham. This is also very meaningful. Whoever seeking his own happiness, harm with the rod, others, pleasure, living beings, experience no happiness hereafter. Now, if you love your life, if you like your life, your duty is not to harm, not to destroy, not to kill other living beings. Why? If you kill others, if you harm others, you have to suffer. That means you don't like it. If you love you, you should not work, you should not do something for you to suffer. See the other way, what the Buddha said. I don't like to kill you because I love you. That is the idea. If I kill you, I have to suffer. That means I don't like me. I allow me to suffer. The other way around, he explained. So if you cannot think in that way, you have to think in this way. See, the Buddha is very clever to put it this way and that way. Then, wherever seeking his own happiness harms not with what others pressure living being. Experience happiness hereafter. Same thing. Wherever seeking his own happiness, if you seek your own happiness, if you like to enjoy your life, if you don't like to suffer, then harm not others. Should not kill others. Should not destroy others. If you do that, you lose your happiness. You lose your pleasure. Because the reaction comes. This is the Buddha's. Others, when we talk to the followers of other religions, they say we are stupid actually. When we say we don't know to kill mosquito, we don't know to kill flies, we don't know to kill cockroaches, we don't know to kill rat, you are stupid, they say. Let it be anything. Because stupid people are far better than cruel people. Stupid people are harmless people. But cruel people are very dangerous. We like to remain as stupid, but we don't like to suffer. But those cruel people who are so clever, they have to suffer. Let them talk anything. Let them condemn. But we must know our own principle. Yes. Right. Start. second century. On the way. You ask the question on the way today. Okay.
人喎，佢係一個禪宗裏邊一代嘅老祖師，當然佢有啲功夫啊。呢個培優丞相嘅仔一動呢個念頭，佢就知道啦。咁啊，等佢擔水翻嚟呢，個法海啊，你嚟，你嚟。咁啊，法海睇見師傅叫嘛，不能不到啊！有咩事啊，師傅？佢話我問你啊，你今日擔水，你諗乜嘢啊？佢話冇啊，師傅，冇嘢喎。冇嘢，佢好，你唔認啊嘛？佢你唔認啦，我點破你？佢話你係和尚飲水就汗淋挑啊，縱然飲了啲也難消喎。你有冇咁諗過啊？咁啊，到呢個時候，法海不能不認，不能否認啦，冇法子唔認啦，係嘛？後來呢個維山老人講啊，佢話我話俾你聽，佢話老僧打一座啊，都能消萬擔糧啊！佢話：如果我哋啲老僧啊打一座好啲入定啊，佢話萬擔糧我都可以燒低你㗎，何況你一桶水？佢話你以後唔好咁多心啊，你要萬緣放下，你要專心向道啊，然後先至係我哋出家人嘅本色啊，咁啊先至夠骨氣。佢話：如果你嫌辛苦啊，你就唔需要出家啦。咁啊話得呢個法海咧，咁啊冇話講啦。咁啊可見咧，我一個出家者初雖然啦係勞苦啊，但係呢啲完全係結緣嘅事，亦係求福嘅事，亦係自己啦嚇打好日後所謂做一山嘅主持，或者做大法師嘅基礎。
Parents are not responsible. They are home. Children